What's going on, everyone? Lullet here. Today we're going to be talking about how to make infinite money. Sounds like one of those questions that really doesn't have an answer, but actually, in fact, kind of does. And today we're going to be looking into exactly that. The answer to this question isn't me selling you on some type of Ponzi scheme or some type of get-rich-quick scheme, but rather it's an actionable way for you to actually be able to do it. I was posed this question by one of our subscribers here on the channel, and so I was like, all right, let's make a video about it. There's a lot of ways to dissect this question and actually get to the answer we want, but I'll start off with this with some prefacing. The primary thing here to understand is that essentially there's two types of income. You got your passive income and you have your active income. Your active income is essentially you exchanging your time for money because you're basically actively working for your dollars. On the other hand, you have passive income, which is essentially income you're not actively working for, but earning passively. When you hear folks making money while they sleep, that's essentially passive income. Whether it's passive income or active income, there's a ton of ways to make both of them. And what we're gonna do is walk through an example step by step together, basically to understand how to make infinite money, and more importantly, how you can do it too. And right before we get into it, this is my way of looking at answering this question, so please, if you see any type of other way, I'm happy to understand any other ways to make money, and especially infinite money, and it will help everyone else looking at the comment section. So with that, you know how it is. I'll see you on the other side. So starting us off, we're gonna use some whole numbers, and feel free to replace these numbers that we go over with your very own. So step one, let's consider pre-tax income. Let's just say it's an even 100K. This is pre-tax, so post-tax, let's just say effectively there's a tax rate of 28%. How I got here is not important, but basically if you take away 28% from 100K, you're left with 72K. The reason 72K matters is because if you divide 72K by 12 months in a year, it comes out to an even $6,000. $6,000 is an easy number for us to work with, for example, and again, replace it with your very own if you shall. But that being said, 6K, let's say that, hey, you got fixed expenses every single month from the 6K incoming in of $3,000. $3,000 outgoing from what's coming in at 6K means you're left over with another $3,000, aka 50% of that total $6,000. Now, if 50% are fixed, then we got another 50% to pretty much do anything else but pay our fixed expenses, aka we have another $3,000 to take the next step. From this 3K, it really doesn't matter how much you're really saving, aka if it's 3K, 2K, all 6 grand for that matter. The point being, within what's actually coming in terms of income, it all matters about how much percent can you really save. In our example, if we save 3,000 of that 6,000, that is 50%. And although that may not be realistic or kind of preferred by many folk, especially if you're supporting family or other reasons in general, the point being that the more you can save from what you're earning is really what matters versus how much you're earning overall. So now we got 3K cash and we can do anything we want to do with it. We can allocate it however we see fit. And naturally, as life happens, there's emergencies that come along the way. There are bigger purchases that you may want to make. And so the biggest assumption here is that we've already allocated funds towards those emergencies, towards that type of sinking fund to go towards however we see fit. So the point here being that that 3K cash that we have is basically able to be used for whatever purpose we desire. The goal here is to make infinity money. And there's a lot of ways to make infinity money, but to keep things real simple, but also relatable, and something you can actually do right after this video, is essentially dealing with investing into the S&P 500. All right, so super quick when we going over what the 4% rule is. And if you already know what it is, feel free to forward along, because the fun of having infinite money for other investments is what we discuss after this. The 4% rule is the result of a study done by Trinity College, where they analyzed the S&P 500's performance over the last 100 years and understood that, hey, if you take out 4% of your portfolio worth that's invested into the S&P 500, you would effectively never ever run out of money. And just in case you don't know what the S&P 500 is, the S&P stands for Standard & Poor Company, and basically the S&P 500 is an index that tracks the performance of 500 large companies in the United States, and over time it basically adds and removes certain companies from this 500 and certain allocation that's attributed to each and every company over time to give basically the performance that's deemed to be most optimal. In terms of performance, the S&P 500 has grown on average 7 to 8% over the last 100 years, and in terms of inflation, it's been 2 to 3% overall. And so mathematically, where this 4% rule is coming from is essentially the gains on top of your portfolio is the intention of what you want to withdraw, and so your portfolio would actually be intact. A quick example to bring the point home is that, hey, let's say you have $1 million in the S&P 500, and 4% of a million is essentially $40,000. And so based on the growth of the S&P 500, if you're withdrawing 4%, aka $40,000 in this case of your $1 million in the portfolio, then in perpetuity, the S&P 500 would still grow in such a way that you're able to take out this 40K based on the fact that you have $1 million invested in the long term. Regarding taxation and other elements of the income that would be generated from this portfolio is not the direct focus of this video, but at the same time, a fun fact is this 4% rule, it's based on findings up to the year 2008. And so actually, if you do the math for post-2008, what it looks like basically is that this 4% rule has actually changed to 5% just based on the growth factor of the S&P 500. With this brief overview of the 4% rule, we'll get back to the primary focus of our video. See you on the other side. All right, super quick, everyone. Quick disclaimer over here to some assumptions. So first is obviously the American stock market needs to be alive and well. And within that, the S&P 500 specifically, and more importantly, that 4% rule we're talking about, that definitely needs to keep holding the way it is. Further, the expenses you incur are definitely going to have to be taken care of by that 4% rule. And let's say that you're making more in terms of that 4% that you're actually withdrawing, your expenses, they can go up, but at the same time, as long as they fit within that 4% rule parameter, you should be okay. Third to last disclaimer is going to be any money left over is basically what we're going to be using to compound on top of each other in order to get to that infinity. AKA, this assumption is saying that, hey, you're not exchanging your time for money, but it's your money that's compounding on top of your money that we're going to be using for the next steps. From here, this total amount that we're getting is basically saying that our expenses are taken care of. And so above that amount of expense, basically is that amount of money that's capable, which isn't earned by exchanging our time for dollars, but basically it's our own money compounding on top of itself that's allowing us to basically take these next steps in order to be invested in such a way to get to that infinity point. And finally, we're gonna go over some of my plans of how I'm gonna make this possible. And so again, it's my way of doing it, aka personal finance. So just sharing it out here with the world, aka not financial advice, because you know how it is. For example, one of the things you can do with this excess cash flow is essentially use some of that to invest into stocks, for example, growth stocks, and see capital appreciation. Apart from growth stocks, where you can see capital appreciation once you sell said stock, there's other items, for example, like REITs, aka real estate investment trusts, and other types of stocks, for example, LPs, aka limited partnership type stocks, and CEF, closed-end funds. And examples of these basically yield you dividends versus just seeing income through actual selling of the asset. You can actually just get income through holding them. Switching asset classes, you have cryptocurrency, where you can see similar capital gains by the buying and selling of, for example, Bitcoin and Ethereum, but also by just trading altcoins, for example. And just like we hold stocks and receive dividends on certain types of stocks, you can actually get staking rewards on certain type of cryptocurrency. And staking rewards is essentially like dividends. They're not totally the same, but it's still a way for you to get passive income by holding the same type of asset. Moving on from there, there's also the trading perspective. For example, with stocks, you got the options market, and in cryptocurrency as well, you do have an options market as well. And to my knowledge, at least in the US, at the time of this recording, you got the options market for both Bitcoin as well as Ethereum. Now, coming back to these stocks that don't pay dividends, well, you can still make money by selling options where you can actually collect premium, aka passive income. And if you're on the trading side, you can actually buy and sell contracts as well, aka your option contracts. And finally, coming back to cryptocurrency, let's say there's some cryptocurrencies that don't actually have the capability for you to earn those staking rewards, aka kind of similar to dividends. Well, what can you do? There's actually certain platforms and exchanges, for example, your Nexo, Gemini, BlockFi, Voyager, and others as well, where basically you can get interest on your cryptocurrency. So if there's cryptocurrency that you can actually earn your staking rewards on, you can still earn interest, and it's directly deposited right into your exchange account. These are some of the ways you can get there. And in fact, we have videos on the channel of exactly how to do each and every one of the items I went over step by step, so feel free to check it out. Moreover, there are ways that I didn't even include. For example, the obvious real estate income, aka having a cash flowing property and going from there. And so the point being, there's not just 1, 2, or 3, or 10 ways. There's actually so many ways. And with so many ways, if you do the math, then basically infinity is not too far away. I have a pro tip I want to share. And the whole point of this is that it's basically passive income that's allowing you passively to earn even more and even more and even more, aka you're not spending your time for money. What this means is it doesn't need to stop the journey of making money with your own lifetime, but actually it can be transferred on to your future kin, your future generations, aka your whole lineage. Like this, even if you're not there, you're still able to make infinity money essentially, because if time is infinite, then basically you keep making money as time goes on. The pro tip I want to share is basically the way I think about it is something known as DIG. It stands for Daily Income Goal. The moment I started thinking like this, I broke down everything into how much am I making per day on average from all of my sources of income. From here, I'm able to understand what is my cash flow every single day from each and every type of income, aka what am I looking at potentially if I wanted to increase one type of income, what would that mean towards my DIG? On the other hand, sometimes you got to say bye-bye to a type of income that may not be worth it towards your long-term goal or even short-term goal, aka if it's not helping that DIG, it's not really helping at all. This DIG principle really anchors me to really think through what type of steps I'm really taking, which could impact not just tomorrow or next week, but what about the long-term outlook in terms of what I could be earning, whether that's actively or passively. So with that, thanks for coming to the end.